talking about. It's about communication in our culture.
Do not forget about Dr. Juanita, who is a specialist who's going to be talking about culture and communication.
How can I forget? She sounds so special already. Look at that. But let's not forget, really, about our two special girls who are out there in the field right now.
Hey, we're about to experience a real-life example of intercultural communication. Check this out.
Good evening. We're reporting live here from the studio. Speaking about culture, we wanted to seek out to the Irvine Valley College campus and seek their opinions about what they thought about culture, certain stereotypes they have encountered, and their feelings towards it. Let's take a look.
Well, I define culture as a person's background, where they're from, their agriculture, like their foods and everything, and the way they live and stuff.
So, what's your ethnicity?
For mine is, I'm Mexican. I was born in Mexico. I came here when I was around 6. I mean, I didn't wish I was born here, but you know, it just happened.
Yeah. So, what are certain stereotypes that you have encountered?
Well, I've encountered many. Like one IVC is not really a big stereotype, but since I'm Mexican, they think I can only play soccer. But I'm actually athletic. I can play basketball, you know, other sports, but I just play soccer because it's my favorite sport.
Okay. So, how do you feel about that?
I mean, I don't feel bad, you know, because sports is not for everyone, you know. Like, if you're Mexican, then you're either good at soccer or you're not. But I mean, there's other Mexicans that play different sports, but I don't feel bad about that one. But I mean, I heard worse one where like they said that if you're Mexican, you're automatically like that and stuff like that. I mean, that's kind of bad, but this is just differently than if someone calls you the N-word and black, you know. But it's pretty bad. Some people take it offensively, but yeah, I don't think it's that bad.
Okay. So, thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Ashley. This is Diana reporting live from the Irvine Spectrum. Let's go see what people have to say about culture.
My family, for instance, I'm married to a Filipino woman. My kids have Filipino and black. Then my parents were, you know, different, mixed of different nationalities too. So I respect every culture out there because that's something I'm a part of everything. So I can't simply say I'm a part of one thing or another. But some people, unfortunately, have different views. Can't stop that.
Has there been any certain stereotypes that you've encountered?
Yeah. At my work, a lot of things. I've been called half-breed, I've been called mulatto. You know, people don't think I'm full black, you know, a lot of different things. But you know what? I don't let that worry me because that's just the way it is.
How do you usually kind of deal with people pose those stereotypes?
I ignore it. Because you know what? That's society that doesn't know any better.
Yeah.
If you're part of the real society that's more than knowledgeable, not ignorant, then you look beyond all that.
How do you, since you said your family, your wife is Filipino and your how do you kind of incorporate both cultures for your kids?
It's pretty easy. I mean, both families respect each other, you know. I go to my mom and dad's house and, you know, they love being around my kids and, you know, they love being around my wife. Same thing about my wife and her family. We all get along good and, you know, no problem.
Is there anything else you would like to add?
Not really. I mean, just, you know, when you're living, you know, you're as old as I am, you tend to just ignore it, then live and just keep on moving. You don't really worry about it. Because you know what? My family's more important than worrying about somebody thinking I'm black or I'm this color, whatever. Because they don't matter. My family matters.
What's your ethnicity?
I'm half Ecuadorian and half Italian.
Nice. You got a good mixture there. Yep. So, what stereotypes have you encountered?
That since I'm white, people think that I'm just plain out white.
White.
That
born here in America.
Yeah. And that if I tell them I'm Hispanic, they just start talking to me in Spanish, and I'm like, I don't know what you're saying.
So how do you feel about this? How do you feel about that situation?
I mean, sometimes it's a little awkward, but I don't really think of it as a big deal. I guess it could be a big deal.
Okay. Thank you for taking the time.
So how do you all feel about culture? How do you define culture?
I think culture is something that has to do with your ethnicity, and it's something that defines you, and it's what you take part in for your country or whatever it's like. call yourself?
Like traditions, I guess. And then, do you mind sharing what you are?
I'm Chinese.
I'm Taiwanese. I'm Pakistani. And has there been any stereotypes that reached out with or encounter, kind of like that comes up in your life?
Not that it's personally
encounter.
nothing we take personally, but Asians are always cheeky. We're supposed to be smart. I don't know. I don't know. What about? No.
Pay attention. Yeah.
Okay.
And like when you hear stereotypes that are like on Netflix or even within your city, how do you feel about it? Or how do you feel?
Well, I mean, you don't take it personally. It's just a joke. It's not a big deal.
Well, it's not a joke. Some people actually do it seriously.
Yeah, but I just laugh. Literally,
Yeah,
I just laugh.
If you need to like,
It's not serious. Like literally, I wouldn't care what everyone has to
one
say.
person in a million, and if they want to make a joke out of themselves, and as they live in like the old country. Is there anything else to ask?
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Diana. I feel really informed now. I really enjoyed hearing from the public's view. That was really great. How did you feel, Noor?
You know what? I feel great. I feel like I just acquired a new piece of knowledge that I did not know before. You know, today I learned something new.
Right? And I mean, just to think, so many cultures just in our own backyard. I mean, look at the diversity. I would have never guessed.
You know, I would have never guessed the fact that if we would have gone to Spectrum just to see a movie, that we'd see these many different varieties of cultures with different ways of experiencing their culture and communication.
Right? And even at our school. I mean, who would have thought? I just never noticed. Maybe I'm too focused. I don't know.
You know what? Maybe you're just staring at your shoes, you know, when you're walking in school.
You know what? They're really good shoes. You can't deny that. Come on now. Well, now we're going to get more informed. I mean, if we didn't just have a great segment over there, we're going to bring in Dr. Juanita, who's a specialist in communication with culture. So let's bring in Dr. Juanita. Can we bring her in, please?
I don't think you guys understand how special Dr. Juanita is.
I know.
Here
I've
she
been looking
is. Look how
forward.
special
Look
she is.
at
Let's get a round of
that.
applause.
Look at her. Yeah. Hi, Dr. Juanita. We heard that you grew up in two cultures and you specify with communication, and I mean, I love you.
So tonight we prepared a couple questions for you, if you don't mind, and you know, so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get started with a few questions,
Absolutely.
and hopefully, I guess, with your educational background, that you'll be able to inform us and get us a little bit more educated, I guess.
Yes, please.
Absolutely. There's so much to learn, so many different things, you know. So, you know, my parents are Mexican because that's where they were born and raised. You know, they brought us over here. They brought themselves over here. And, you know, here I am. Had the pleasure of being educated here, and there's so much going on. But, yeah, taking a look of how I interact daily, just growing up, just, you know, how does my culture affect what I do, how I do it, and how does everybody else? I mean, this country, it's not a melting pot, honestly. It's a salad. Everything is individual. Everything holds on to its own specific and great taste, and that's what we're experiencing. It is a wonderful salad that we've created here.
Or how did you deal with both your cultures growing up here? I mean, I heard for some people, like I saw, you know, they dealt with it just fine. Others were kind of unaware. How did you go about that?
You know, I was really fortunate. I was really raised in a nurturing kind of culture. So, you know, my parents believed in backing us all up. I come from a large family. I have 5 sisters, 4 brothers.
Wow.
And let me tell you, we were all allowed to be individuals, you know, but very nurturing. So, you know, basically that just allowed us to express what we wanted to do, but still have the support. You know, with my culture, the Mexican culture, that's kind of how it is. You know, you're raised by a community, and our community was our own family. You know?
I'm glad you brought that up, because I can definitely relate with that. And I'm Syrian American, so my Middle Eastern part of my culture, it's also a nurturing culture. It's like, I remember we'll be having dinner, and you know, if let's just say, you know, you finish your plate, they always have to put more food on your plate. And this, even like, you know, even with me, I'm not really shy with my food, but like, you know, they feel like, oh, you're being shy, or, you know, what can I get you, or, let me put more food, and like, oh, they're worried about me. They want to nurture me. They want to make sure I'm okay. If I'm ever feeling bad, my neighbor is going to come and try to help me. Whereas over here in America, I feel like it's more of along the lines of achievement culture.
The Asian community is really about achievement. If you notice your friends, they're just their parents, the way they drive, it's different from mine. And I noticed that. I work with a lot of colleagues, and it's different, and it's just so fascinating. What's your nationality?
I was born here, I was raised here, and my parents, they were from South America, but they never really mentioned much about it. And, it was kind of you can speak Spanish if you'd like to, or you just settle in here. But, growing up was really fun. I had the loud parties and, the music all around and everything, but I never really saw anything different. I thought everything was normal. That's how people function, Christmas, you just party away, I didn't see anything different, not until, we started talking and, look at that.
This is the first time I'm hearing this from her, like completely. So this is like something, I'm getting to know her, and this is, and while we're on live right now.
Amazing,
let
right?
me ask you
Communication's key.
You talked about high context and low context culture. Could you elaborate on that, on what you mean by that, for our viewers that might not know what that means?
Low context. What do I mean by that? Let me tell you. There's certain cultures that have certain ways of doing things. A low context kind of culture, it kind of goes back to your nurturing aspect. You want people to like you, but you use words. You're very flowery, and you want acceptance, and that comes so much from your use of words. Here, she's all about the eyes rolling, the hair flicking, That's high context, and it's not a bad thing. It's just different. They're two different ways, and I see that between both of you. And
you know what? I think that's very interesting. I didn't know that there was a name for her talking with her eyes and facial gestures all over the place. Sometimes she doesn't even need to say anything.
Stop talking. Just saying.
You know what? This brings me to my next question. I was reading up on an article
on your
just
page.
Last night on your page.
Wow.
And this article was talking about asynchronous versus synchronous communication. Mm-hmm. And could you elaborate more on that and relate it to which of the two do you think relates to the culture here in the United States?
Absolutely. It used to be old school, synchronous, It was immediate. You talk to somebody, you're looking at them in the eye, you're calling them up on the phone, and people were actually answering their phones. Today's age, that's not the case. It's asynchronous. And what that means is there's a delay gap between, I'm going to choose to take that phone call or not. I'm going to choose to answer that text message later. It's not immediate, Although both still work, think about the last time you actually answered your phone. Was it an actual real phone call and you actually answered it? More than likely it wasn't. It was, let that go to voicemail and I'll hear it later and I'll respond later. So it kind of, communication's always a
Oh my God. Well, that's a wrap. We're gonna have to wrap. So yeah, that's the end of the night. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi guys, welcome to the Tomorrow Show. So today's segment was really good. I feel like I learned a lot. I couldn't even comprehend all of it, but it was a really good show. How do you feel?
I'm gonna have to agree. I didn't realize that there were so many different aspects in communication, and especially with the culture subject that we had to talk about.
I know. I finally see that you're not a whiner. It's just you. It's how you were brought up. Look at that. I finally get you.
And you know what? I've definitely come to the conclusion that I'm a more charming and more better communicator than you are.
Well, I guess we're gonna have to see another segment to really have a vote on that now, aren't we?
You know what? Let's make it a competition.
Let's do this. So now you guys know for the next show, we'll see who's really more charming.
All right.
All right then.
That's the cap.
Okay. Well, good day, guys, and we'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.